Kick off the day today with our LCM alumni panel. I'm going to welcome purely in order of graduation, actually, certainly not in any other order, 4 wonderful graduates who are real assets to LCM. First of all, I'd like to welcome Kurt Martinez. This is where he magically appears on my screen. There he is. Hey, so good to see you.
You too.
Kurt, it would be great if you could just do a very quick introduction of yourself with regards to perhaps when you graduated from LCM, what course you did. And I think it would be really exciting for people to hear perhaps some of your career highlights that are
sure.
areas that you feel that would be great.
Yeah. I graduated in 2011. I did the DipHE in music technology at New TVU. And I'm now a recording engineer. I work with artists like Burna Boy, Disciples, Fleur East, Inner Roads, and most recently a song I recorded with H and AJ Tracy, Platinum, just before Christmas.
Amazing, thank you. That's wonderful. No, really wonderful, and looking forward to talking with you more about things that you've done in your career. Esther's scrolling through. You guys can see in the background Kurt's website, which I'm sure he won't mind that you check out. But it's wonderful to have you here today, and thank you so much for being here. I'd like to segue now to Walter Aldaz. This is where he appears on my screen. Hey, how are you? It's good to see you.
Yeah.
So thank you again. Thank you so much for being here today. If you could do the same kind of introduction, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. I graduated in 2015 from the BA Music Management course. I'm working in arts management now. I look after Frank Cart and the Rattlesnakes, Faithless, R Plus, and a few other people to boot. I've went through labels, publishing companies, and now I'm here. It's been quite a weird road that I've came to, but I can get to all that as it goes on, I guess. Yeah.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Congratulations on all your successes. I mean, some amazing artists that you're working with, and excuse me again, looking forward to really hearing more about that today. So thank you very much for being here. So next we move on to Nadia Sheikh.
Hello.
Hey, how are you? It's good to see you.
You too.
Thank you. Nadia, if you could do the same kind of introduction, that would be great.
Yeah, so I studied music performance and recording, and I graduated in 2017. And yeah, well, I'm an artist. I'm a singer-songwriter, and probably most recently, my highlight would be that just before the pandemic, I supported Stereophonics around Europe and Manchester and Cardiff Arena.
Amazing. So we've got, I mean, Nadia, that's wonderful. Again, so fantastic to have you here and to hear your inspiring stories. We've got a clip of Nadia, one of Nadia's latest songs. It's called Fire Away. We're just going to play the first minute or so everybody can hear. That's fantastic. Again, I'm really excited to hear about all the work that you've done, but it'll be great to hear about your experiences on tour with the Stereophonics as well. And again, and much like Walter and Kurt, thank you so much for being here today. Really excited to have you here. And then last but by no means least, delighted to welcome Quantz Ramdin.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing? It's really good to see you.
Not too bad. I was jamming out. I wanted to carry on.
I know. I was the same. I'm sure the playback you're going to see me doing, you know, the head moves. Yeah. Quantz, if you could do the same introduction as your colleagues, that would be wonderful.
All right. So I graduated in 2018, and I did the music tech and pop performance course. And over the last, I'd say four years, I've been touring all around the world with artists such as Ella Air. Coltrane is an artist I played for a lot, and I've played for people like Dermot Kennedy, as you can see on the screen, Jason Derulo. So yeah, a few different pop artists, and I've just been doing the session thing. So a lot of recording, a lot of studio work, a lot of touring, you know, so a mixture of stuff.
Fantastic. I don't know, Esther, if we've got a clip of Dermot Kennedy to play, that would be great. Or we're just going to have it on in the background. It's fine. Sorry.
Surprising.
Hi, there we are. So you're all back. That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here today and for giving up your time and for talking to me and for all the wonderful insights that you're going to impart on. I have a series of questions which range from, you know, the banal to slightly more interesting. But what I'm really interested to hear about all sorts of experiences that you have had. So I'm going to start with, it's a fairly open, fairly banal question, but I wanted to set the scene very clearly, is what or who inspired you to get into music in the first place? Nadia, I'm going to come to you.
Get started. I think I always liked music, and since I was like 5 or 6, I was like obsessed with the Beatles. My uncle was a musician, so he used to play guitar. Well, he still plays guitar, and I kind of wanted to be like him. He was around with guitar. So when I was tiny, I asked for a guitar, but never did anything. And then it was Avril Lavigne for me.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
I was about 11 and I just got absolutely obsessed with the music up to the point that I'd go to sleep and I couldn't sleep because I just had like the songs in my head. My parents took me for my 12th birthday to see her at Manchester Arena, and I just saw her and I was like, I just want to do that. So I picked up, taught myself guitar, decided I wanted to be a singer, never sung in my life. I just went, Mom, I want to be a singer. I just couldn't sing. Like, she was like, sing to me. And I was like, so it kind of, I started like that and spiraled and never stopped.
That's fantastic. And Kurt, how about you?
I was very similar. I think I started playing guitar when I was about 9 years old. And as I moved into the comp, I started to get into, you know, different school bands, and I was always into bands like Blink-182, Sum 41, and I think there was an album that Blink out, and they'd actually put in the liner notes little things that they'd done production-wise that I'd not seen bands do before.
Yeah.
And that kind of got me interested in the engineering side and the production side. So yeah, I kind of got into it through that.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear. Well, it's going to come to you next. What or who inspired you to get into music?
Quite similar to Nadia, it was the Beatles. I used to go around to my grandparents' house every evening after school, and my granddad would have records just floating around, so I'd play, and there'd be music everywhere, and often it would be the Beatles, Hendrix, etc.
Yep.
Actually got me into playing guitar. My grandma got me a guitar. Went from there. She either loves or loathes it, depending on the day, as to how that still went, because I think she still prefer I chose a different career. Yeah, and I joined bands, and it kind of snowballed from there. Just the love continued, and the bands failed, but the music prevailed.
And what made you make that switch from sort of a more performance focused sort of delivery to more, well, not to more, to the business, to moving into music business?
When I was in the bands, it was always me that would handle the promoters, dealing with that, the merch, etc. The rest were not caring about that at all. They're like, oh, we'll get paid £10 for this gig. I'm like, no, we're not, because that doesn't cover anything. So I was very, you know, maybe it's a Scottish thing, but I was caring about the pennies. And yeah, from when the band collapsed, I went, okay, I'm all right at this. I'll carry on and see how it goes. And then here we are.
History from there. That's fantastic. No, definitely. And I speak with a background in performance about how I always want performers to be much more business savvy, because the music business is just that, it's a business. So, you know, you you keep going because
another zero. That's how it is.
And then Quantz, what or who inspired you to get into music?
Well, I don't have a specific time that inspired a specific person, but I have like multiple kind of points that I remember along the way.
Brilliant.
First of all, being in my early years, my first years of life, my mum would play like Celtic folk and New Age music, because I would always just fall asleep instantly. So don't know if you know artist with Enya, she's quite a big artist, but I used to listen to that when I was, you know, in my early years, and then even now it's like when I listen to that touches me. So I think that was the first thing that kind of like, you know, really kind of got me in the music kind of world, because I listened to that music all the time. And then I guess growing up, it was, you know, when I first started to play piano, which was around 7 or 8 years of age. And then from then on, kind of listened to pop music, electronic music, kind of, and then a whole bunch of different stuff, and then it kind of went from there.
That's wonderful. So it's so interesting to hear how all of your interests started in this eclectic and often chaotic industry that you guys will find yourselves in. For me, I think I'd really like to know, because you all obviously graduated from university, so you chose to apply your love of music to get an academic underpinning and that development that came with education. How did your time at LCM, UWL, help to forge your goals? And how did it provide clarity to the vision that you'd had? Because you all strike me as having sort of very clear vision from early on, actually. And I was exactly the same. And I'm interested to know how your time at LCM helped to forge the goals that you had, and how did it provide clarity to what you wanted to do? Quantz, I'm going to start with you this time.
So one of the main things that I'd always kind of thank LCM for was the kind of focus on collaboration and kind of, I guess, networking in a sense, because it was the one thing. There's so many people, so many different influences, people playing different types of music. You know, LCM Live was a huge thing and such a fun event. And I think it was just meeting people and collaborating and learning, you know, from different people's kind of influences, that LCM really supported. And the tutors, you know, like yourself, really supported, and even in the lectures. That was something that I, you know, will always take forward in kind of the music industry, because that's such a huge part of it. You know, that is, you know, one of the biggest parts of it. It's collaboration, it's networking, you know, and it's kind of creating new things, you know, especially now. So
yeah, for sure. I'm going to get you to hold that thought, actually, because it's almost like you've read my questions, which I promise you guys at home that he hasn't, because it links really well onto my next question. But Kurt, let's go to you. So how did your time at LCM help to forge your goals?
Similarly, the idea of collaboration, meeting people from different backgrounds, working with people that weren't necessarily into the things that I was into, but I got to learn about different genres, different styles, and the modules as well. I think the fact that you could experience these different modules and find things that you might have been interested in, but wouldn't wholeheartedly go into yourself. And then things that I might have thought that I'd be completely interested in, and then realise that I probably wasn't that great at that. So it was nice to find different angles and try different things.
And education does that. I don't know if you guys found the same. I know that through my, or it's actually what Nicholas was saying, you sort of start off with one sort of pathway and avenue, and education opens up exactly, Kurt, as you were just saying about, I think I'm really into this. Actually, it turns out maybe I'm not as into that as I thought I was, because I've tried this, and actually this is maybe more interesting or appealing to me at that point. And I think having that openness, for me personally, has certainly been one of the huge benefits of education. So it's interesting to hear that you've had the same experiences as well, which is wonderful. Walt, how did your time at LCM help to forge your goals?
Likewise, collaborations and meeting people and networking. Like, two of my best friends still work from LCM, and we work together on a daily basis, which is quite mad. And we all, like, from my journey after LCM, I went to Sony Music, and one of them came with me as well. So it's been weird how our journey has continued. But with that as well, like learning what we learned at LCM, you know, for instance, law, Anne Harrison. I work with Anne Harrison now. That's mad, you know, and like reading her book all the time. And every time I see her, I was like, Nadia, you taught me a thing or two, you know. So it's just
what's so endearing, I'm sorry to cut you up, is that the other three, your three colleagues who didn't do music business all go, oh, the Anne Harrison book. Yeah, I get it. It's like the staple book for, and how amazing. So you're working with her now? That's amazing.
I work with Paul, who's worked with her, but she's always in the room. I'm just like, yep, you taught me a thing or two, and you've helped me through a few deals. So it's been great, you know, and that understanding, and you don't really appreciate, might not appreciate at the time, but you know, having that knowledge and just in the back of your mind is essential. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And Nadia, how about you? How did your time at university help to forge your goals and provide some clarity?
I'm probably going to repeat a bit of what everyone said, but collaboration. My band I met in uni. So my bass player and my drummer, Ronan George, same year at uni. I actually changed courses in the first 2 weeks.
I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So what you're saying about opening up, I actually started the music performance and management course.
Yes.
And there were 3 of us, and the other 2 students were classical students. I remember sitting for the first 2 weeks in these lessons about Bach chorales and stuff, and I'm a pop performer, like I'm a pop songwriter. And I was sat there like trying to understand all of this. My brain was hurting. I was like, through this, I'll do it. And then I was like, I can't. And I moved to recording, and it was the best decision I've ever made, because I'm self-managed. I don't have a manager or I'm completely. But the fact that I just went onto that side and just thought, okay, now I can go into a studio and I can actually do stuff. I can record demos that are not just like me just playing the guitar. That opened up for me a huge world, and for me was a blessing in disguise, because I think that's the path that was for me.
And I think I'd totally forgotten that. It's funny, isn't it, how you have that you have a memory that's embedded with it, and some of the details get a bit blurred. And I think it's I think what you've just said, Nadia, is hugely important about being open to those changes, and actually when realizing that something's not working or it's not happening is, you know, okay, well, why is it not? Let me try this instead. And it turns out to be, you know, as you say, a blessing in disguise, or perhaps one of the best choices that you ever made for your career. So I'd totally forgotten that. That's totally forgotten that. So what's really interesting to me is that you guys have all honed in on what I would call non-musical skills. So you're all evidently very skilled musicians in a variety of ways and genres. But what non-musical skills would you say are the most important in creating and establishing a career in the music industry? So I've used the phrase lately about sort of having baseline expectations that I speak as a keys player, that it's a baseline expectation for me that a keys player can play the keys. It's a baseline thing. So or a singer can sing. So suddenly there are all these sort of these skills that are related not to instrumental handling or to the actual sort of playing of the music. Kurt, let's come to you first. What non-musical skills would you say are most important in creating and establishing a career?
I'd say, I mean, I started as a runner in post-production, and I think the hospitality side for me played a big part in learning how to work with those high-profile clients and just how to treat people and how you'd want to be treated yourself.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of thing about personality in there.
Yeah, it's hugely important, isn't it? That I love the phrase that you just used about treating other people how you'd want to be treated yourself. You know, it's such
I think I've absolutely seen how you don't want to be treated, been treated how you don't want to be treated. But totally. It is exactly learning that, you know, the standard, making the teas, making the coffees. It's I think a big part of the music industry is the hospitality side you get from the runners and the assistants.
Yeah, for sure. So can you give us an example of where that skill has benefited your career?
Yeah, I think there was actually a post-production studio I was working at, and they're partnered with one of the studios that I now work at. Had I not had that experience working in the post-production studio, and the management of this studio, not knowing how things are run and how hard it is, the hours and the how demanding the job is, I probably wouldn't have got into the studio that I'm with now. And it's through them knowing exactly how much effort you've got to put in, and how you've got to behave, that something else has come along down the line.
Absolutely. Walt, how about you? What non-musical skills would you say are the most important in creating and establishing a career?
You need to have, first and foremost, drive, I think, and work ethic is, like putting yourself in the right positions, networking, as we've already discussed, but, having the drive and the passion to be like, if you get set back, you got to pick yourself up and keep going, because with this industry, there will be many setbacks. Like, it's not, as you're seeing right now from what we're in, how do you overcome that? What gets you up in the morning and keeps you going? What's your cup of coffee? Is it the love for the music? Is it, are you working for that band because without you or that artist, what happens? So for me, that was that. And you kind of have to have that. You can be a learning thing and people around you, and you have the groups of people. If you find a bunch of driven people around you that can grow and help, that's all better. And try and put yourself in those groups of people and want to have them go for the same things you do.
100%. And how can you give us an example about how, when you've done that, how has that benefited your career?
Well, the position I'm in right now, for instance, like before I joined ATC, I was out of work for a year, which was another difficult period. And I just kept on picking myself up and speaking to friends daily, found a position. I was a lower position, I was an assistant, and then came in within a year, just keeping doing these things and growing. I became a day-to-day and then back to managing, which was a turmoil I'm sure we can discuss in a bit.
Yeah, no, it'd be really interesting to hear that, because I think sometimes we look at people who are successful and forget that behind every success story there have been huge struggles, and that we all I do with people that inspire me, you think it's all rainbows and ponies and it's all lovely and it's all been this smooth A to Z road, and the reality is very different to that. So
it never is, particularly for artist management, tours that go wrong, shows that go wrong, whatever can happen. There's always something there to screw something up, and you just got to be there ready to handle and deal with it.
Totally. Quantz, how about you? What non-musical skills would you say are the most important?
So it's actually leading on to what Walter and yourself just said. One thing that I've really noticed, I used to believe that, the further you get along in music, the higher you go, the more professional and the more organized everything is going to be. And I've noticed in so many situations, it's the exact opposite. It's like, the more things there are to deal with, the more problems there are going to be, right?
Yeah.
Granted, higher quality problems, but there's still more problems. So I think if I can say 2 words, is to be open and adaptable. Because there's so many situations, that change last minute, situations where you're gonna have to wake up super early where you didn't expect to, or you didn't think you were going to. You might have to be, ready to go for a gig or, a show or whatever it is, because it's such a fast-paced industry. When it's up and running. And I think that's just 2 things that I've definitely kind of learned in the process, that I think if people recognize that you're open and adaptable, they're going to want to work with you because they know you're ready for any situation.
Can you give us any some example or an example about where those skills have benefited you with your career in
so many. So for example, an artist I've recently started working for, she's a new pop artist called Baby Queen, and basically because she's at the start of her campaign, her label are throwing a lot of money at her basically, And so there's going to be a lot of situations, there has been a lot of situations where they want to do a video shoot or they want to do a live stream and it's in like 2 days time or the day after.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to learn a new song, or sorry, a whole new set maybe of her new songs in like a day.
Yeah.
For example, or it might be, the next day I have to wake up for a video shoot or something.
Yeah.
Are you free? And I might have had things planned, but I'm kind of, music is what I'm passionate about, is what I want to do.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to make the time and my reply in my head, I'm like, oh, I've got to figure this out. But the reply is just, yeah, I'm free.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. Of course it's fine. Yeah.
So it's how you kind of present yourself in that way. But yeah, just being open and adaptable.
Yes, two really good words, really good words. And then Nadia, how about you? What non-musical skills would you say?
Apart from everything that everyone said, because yeah, I completely agree. I think you have to be really hardworking.
Yeah.
Hardworking, and for me, from the point of view of an artist, if there's anyone that like writes music, or you just have to know about everything. It doesn't resume to just playing and writing songs. You have to have knowledge on management, on how to book a gig, legal. Don't sign any papers without having someone read them. I think it's a bit like street awareness, but in the music industry.
That's such a good phrase. Yeah.
Just to know what feels right and what feels wrong, and just be open, because you never know, one tiny thing that happens to you 3 years down the line might open up a for you. So be open, be hardworking, and just be very aware of everything that goes around you in the industry, even if you don't like it, because you don't like it.
Nadia, have you got any examples that you'd be happy to share about? It's so interesting to me, and it's something that I feel personally very strongly about this sort of portfolio career idea about, different incomes from different sources, but also kind of being multi-skilled enough to have an awareness of, I love that phrase, street awareness. That's such a good phrase. Can you give us an example about where that has benefited your career?
Well, this is 2021. So 2019, I had this management company approach me, and it all seemed really nice. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, finally found the right person, blah, 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 blah. They gave me a contract. I read it and I went, whoa. Sent it to my parents. They read it. They went like, oh. Sent it to my lawyer. He read it. He went, don't sign it. But obviously, I'm lucky I've got him and he read through it. But myself, just looking at that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to sign this. I never did. But yeah, being street aware in that sense. And one thing that I will always remember is Andy Reynolds.
Yeah. Yes.
So, tour planning and logistics. That's probably the hardest I did in the 3 years of university. I had to put a European tour in a week and a half with no management, no agent, no label, no nothing. And I'd taken that module from Andy Reynolds. I mean, at Carne, if you're going to Switzerland, well, probably now with the Brexit anyway.
Yeah.
That kind of thing that you think, oh, why do I even do this? You need it.
Yes, exactly. And how interesting that you're saying that, because you're a very accomplished musician, Nadia, is that, that module really, I mean, you don't, for those of you who might not be aware of that module, it's very much as it says on the label, as it says on the tin, and there's no, playing the guitar or singing in that, Nadia. And, how interesting that you sort of honed in on that, as this was one thing that absolutely came into my professional career that had benefited me from having an understanding of, that's got nothing to do with me playing and singing. So for all of you, let's, because I know that you've all had some wonderful successes. What's been your best moment professionally since graduating from university? Quantz, to you.
Best moment. That's a good one. I would say
rather than
the first one. Well, the one that I always think about was the first time I played an arena show, which was actually just after I'd graduated, I think. And I was with Coltrane, an artist I play for at the moment, and we supported Dua Lipa. And one of the first shows was the SSE Arena in Glasgow, which is this huge dome. And I'd never played anything close to the amount of people in that venue. And let's just say, that first show, I think I honestly thought I was going to lose my hands. I didn't think I'd be able to play. And then, kind of once I'd gone on stage and did the show, it was kind of like, well, I've done that now. I can do that. It's this whole thing of you have this rush, you're nervous, and then once you kind of do it, you can do it. Whereas you kind of maybe believed it before, but it wasn't a knowing. And then when you do it, it's kind of like, okay, I've got this. Totally. So I think that was kind of an amazing moment for me.
So how did that moment come about for you? Because I think it's really inspiring for people to hear, because Quantz, I mean, your keys playing is truly wonderful, and you are a great musician, and I think it would be really inspiring for people to hear that how did you get there? How did you find yourself on that stage?
Right. It's always interesting to think kind of backwards engineering how things work. Sometimes it's hard to figure out, but I think it kind of stemmed from it's a principle that I actually kind of really love. It's basically just offering value, right? And it's kind of, especially now in this day and age, social media is such a huge thing, and kind of this whole content culture, right? But it is so important. And so I used to, and I still do, not as much, granted, but it used to put out videos of just me playing, things that I enjoyed listening to or things that I enjoyed playing. And I think from that, I basically got a message, I think it was on Facebook or something, from the MD at the time, who's William Bauman, who's also Dua Lipa's MD. And he basically asked me if I wanted to do an audition for this new artist, Coltrane. And I had no idea who he was. But again, it's the whole thing of being open and adaptable. So I don't know where this is going to take me.
But let's try.
I could have judged that situation, be like, oh, he's not got any views or whatever, so I'm not going to do it. But I kind of did it, and got the gig. And then literally, like, I think it was 4 months later, we're on tour with. It's a crazy situation. That, to be honest, that was kind of the main kind of start to, I guess, again, my touring experience. And kind of in the world.
I love hearing that story, Quantz, because something that I'm always, probably my students will tell you that I'm always saying, actually, is, don't wait for opportunities to come to you. Because if you're going to be waiting a long time, and it's really interesting to hear how that was such a clear example of you put this content out there because it was business wise and exposure wise the right thing to do, and then somebody got in touch with me because of that, and I took that chance. I made that decision.
100%.
And I think that's inspiring to hear that you created that. Because I think sometimes we can all, sometimes it can be a tendency for, it's going to happen, it's going to come to me. And I always say it's reassuring to see you all smiling and nodding, actually, because I'm always like, you're going to be waiting a long time if you're waiting for it, because there's a lot of people waiting. That actually, if you want something, you need to go and get it. And if it doesn't exist, you need to create it, because really, you're going to be waiting a long time. And that's, gosh, how much do you have felt stood on that stage 5 months earlier wasn't even on your horizon that this was going to happen.
Literally from 200 maybe to 15,000. It's crazy. Amazing.
Walter, how about you? What's been your best moment professionally since graduating?
Similar to Quantz, again, we were quite similar in this Quantz, but it was February last year. It was Frank's first arena tour, sellout arena tour in Britain, Ali Pali, which was just phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it. I've put on some shows and I've like, that's cool, but 10,000 people singing "I Hate You" was quite an experience. Seeing it from both on stage and off stage, that was probably the highlight of my career for sure. Second to that would probably be touring with the Foo Fighters with Frank, which are my favorite band. So that was something I never thought I would do. So yeah.
And how did those, amazing. And again, that would be like a pinch yourself moment. I'm sure that all of you are going to come up with moments where you're just like, whoa, this is little Nadia here, living the dream about what's happening. And, I'm sure that there would have been a pinch me moment for all of you, which is amazing. But Walter, how did that come about? How did you find yourself backstage watching that?
Well, it came about through 2.5 years of planning. Like, it was a long time. We'd always wanted to do. After selling out Brixton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty special. After selling out Brixton, we always had a plan. You know, we'd always doubled our capacity, and we kept on doing that throughout Europe. And we booking agent, promoters, everyone. We had a solid plan, discussed it with the label, and just went ham on it. And yeah, this is the outcome. But you know, there was a lot of setbacks on the way. You know, Frank had a car crash; he nearly died. The November before, we had to cancel an American tour. He actually had 3 bus crashes before, which is just crazy. He's got the worst luck in the world. And yeah, lots of things thrown at you, but it's how you deal with things, how you adapt, and that's what we've done always. And we got to that point where we sold out 10,000 tickets at Ali Pali, and that the guest list for that night was probably the not so highlight of my career, because it was horrible. But yeah, that'll always live in the memory.
That's wonderful. Kurt, how about you? What's been your best moment professionally since leaving university?
Mine, when I picked up my my silver disc for Rain, that was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But besides, I did a track with Jack Whitehall last year for his for a Netflix special, and I remember getting the text. So the way it works, me being freelance, the labels will book the studio, and then the studio books me as an engineer.
Yeah.
And I remember getting the text and it saying Jack Whitehall. Oh, but he's a comedian, surely not. They've got it wrong, and it turned out it was actually him. So we did it was like a musical number for his Netflix special. But he'd been performing it on his stand-up tour that year as well. And I was invited down to the O2 on the guest list to go and see it actually play out live. Yeah. And that was a surreal experience. I think there was 16,000 people.
Oh my God.
But I'm sat there sort of analysing my work as it played out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, crazy experience.
And how did that come about? It was because you were involved with the studio, or?
Yeah, it was literally through my work with the studio. They get in touch with whoever might be the right fit for whatever's coming in. I was available. I got it. I got on with both Jack and his manager, and they came in again the week after. So I ended up on that as well, and I did his voiceover bit for the Netflix special, which isn't my usual, but that was an experience. And then they bought all the cameras in for Netflix, and we filmed a little segment that went out in the special and on the tour, which was a bizarre one.
Amazing. And it must have been another pinch me moment for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just fantastic. And Nadia, what's been your best moment professionally?
I'm going to take it back to the arenas, and it was playing Manchester Arena, supporting Stereophonics. It was March, literally just before, the week before the lockdown.
Wow.
And that's where that's the place I decided I wanted to be a musician. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, is that where you saw? That's where you saw Avril Lavigne. Oh, how great!
Yeah. Going back to what Quantz said before about being flexible and like open and adaptable, I found out the day before we were playing it. Wow.
That opportunity, Nadia, to support or to tour and support such a headline act. Do you mind sharing how that came about?
Yeah, of course. So a few years back, I followed Jamie, the drummer, on Twitter. Really silly. He followed me back. Like, I'm going to message him. So I messaged him, and he just started asking, "Oh, so do you like your stuff? Do you write whatever?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh my God, Jamie's talking to me." And he was like, "Oh, give me your email. I'll send you some beats." And I was like, "Okay." So he sent me a few things, and I just jammed over it. And then it kind of stopped there. Like, never did anything. We were in touch. following each other and whatever, but nothing happened. Then a while after, he messaged me and said, "Oh, I'm doing this track. Like, I found this piano track. I want to like do spoken word over it, like a Leonard Cohen poem." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it. I've never done spoken word in my life before. I mean, I stumble upon my words, as you can see when I talk." He just sent me this track and the poem he wanted. So I did the spoken word and then I sang. I was like, "Okay, this is what you asked for and this is what I felt." And I just sent him like a little snippet of me just jamming. He was like, "Oh, just send me more." So he mixed it, put it out as like a collaboration on his page and stuff. And then a while after, over a year after, so we wrote a song together, just jamming or whatever in his place. And then a few months after that, I was recording and my producer couldn't finish the songs. And I was like, panic mode. I was like, what do I do now? And I wasn't going to message him. And then I just went, "Look, Jamie, this happened. Do you know anyone?" And he just said, "I'll." So I went to his house and we finished the songs together. I put them out. And then a few months after that, he said, "Oh, just send me a few links. I'll put you on the list for support." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I was in touch with his manager and they weren't announcing support and they were saying, "Yeah, we'll be in touch." Like, it was kind of like limbo. And I was like, literally like dying. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And it's just like, news. And then that was about a year ago. And then a week and a half before the tour, the first date, which was Liverpool, it was a warm-up gig in Liverpool. His manager called me and said, "Oh yeah, we want to offer you the European tour." So we did 16 shows with them, 8 countries. We played the O2 Academy in Leeds, where I saw them when I was 16. I was front row. We played it with them.
Wow.
And then at the end of the tour, the European tour, I found out it wasn't Jamie. So Jamie just put us on this list. But Kelly, the singer, and his manager, he sat in a room, went through all the tracks, through all the artists, and then they picked me.
Oh my gosh.
He just put a good word in. It turns out like he didn't even know that I knew what I was playing before he did.
Really? So he had no idea?
Yeah, they just called me up, offered it to me, and then he saw it on the poster or something. He was like, "Kelly, you gave it to Nadia?" And he was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "She's my mate." And he was like, "Yeah, I know she's your mate." He was like, "I put her on the list." He was like, "Yeah, I know."
Wow. And that was literally from putting, sort of similar to Quantz, putting you out there.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's amazing. So you guys, it would be not quite right to not mention what's happened in the last year. It would be like ignoring the metaphoric elephant in the room. What changes have you noticed in the industry since the outbreak of the coronavirus? And how have you reacted to those professionally in your work? Walter, let's come to you.
The main change, no live, of course, which has been the biggest shock to my system, because that's pretty much how we roll. Like, release an album, you tour it live, that's how it's done. That's part and parcel. Without it, it's been, I'll say one thing for ATC, they adapted quicker than I think anyone else. They created a company called Drift, and Drift went on to do, massive live stream shows. And I think one of those things has been huge. And I've been lucky enough to be part of put on some of those productions.
Yeah.
So that was one way to curve something that's rubbish, but trying to give you kind of the same experience. We did one with Frank, which is the Brixton live stream, where we had the band Stage Invade, which was a bit like Britain's Got Talent, but I hope it was a bit cooler. Yeah, it was weird. But then with Faithless, it's their first album in 10 years. How I wasn't even on the team until February, which was mad. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, so this has happened. We don't have Maxi Jazz on it anymore. You can't do anything live because of this, but we need to release an album." So that, and without being able to do any promo or tour, it's just crazy. So a lot of social media, a lot of live streams, etc.
Yeah,
just having to adapt. Yeah, it's just been a really tough time for everyone, and particularly those in booking agents, promoters. I really feel for them. But
Yes.
going into the live streaming side of it, I don't know how long that will last. When it comes back, I hope it doesn't. People find jobs in it. But yeah, just being able to adapt, as we've all said, and doing those kind of things has been essential. Yeah,
I think adaptability has probably been one of the key skills that creatives have needed in the last 12 months in so many ways. Have you seen the industry? Obviously, it's had to change focus, exactly as you were saying. But what was interesting from what you were just saying was about, okay, well, we can't do this anymore because we can't. So let's not dwell on that. Let's keep that open because it will be back at some point. Let's not dwell on it. Let's move on to something that we can do. And let's create a new platform and a new revenue and a new way of distributing music that we didn't have pre the pandemic. Quantz, as a performer, is that something that's very much happened with you as well? It's interesting to hear, Walter's sort of looking at it from being right in the center of the business element of it. But is it something that's, how's that affected you as a performer?
Yeah, it's definitely affected us as a performer. Obviously, same thing. We can't actually go out and perform live, right? I think for me, there's two sides to it. There's one side where we I've lost essentially pretty much 80% of what I do, right, for a living, and so that was tough, I think, as it was for all of us. So the first element is, don't beat yourself up about the whole situation, and it's easier said than done, obviously. But it's like for me at the start of especially the first lockdown, it was kind of like I was beating myself up, like, I'm sat here, I need to be productive, I need to do this, I need to do that. But we forget we've lost basically our kind of heart and soul. So it's kind of like it's okay to take that time to breathe. And it's something like inspiration. It's like I don't believe you can really force it. I think you can only really create the environment or the mental space, but you can't force inspiration into your body. So I basically took a month from out of anything in industry, because I know a lot of people were trying to do live jams and kind of put stuff together. For me, I just thought, okay, I don't have any inspiration to do this. I'm just going to take a break for a month and not even judge myself for that. That's fine.
Yes.
And I did that, and then I think I did it for like just over a month, and then I came back with I felt fresh. I felt I was kind of focusing on other areas of my life. Came back, and then I can start again. And I think I came back with new musical ideas. I had a lot more focus to practice. And also from the kind of adaptability standpoint, live stream is something that is, I think is at the moment is definitely used more. And, I hope it stays, because it opens a lot more creative doors for people. Some of the shows that have been going on, I've done a couple. I've done a live stream with Dermot Kennedy, which was, it was incredible. It was at the Natural History Museum. Which was such an amazing production.
All the pictures on your amazing.
That was a whole production. The amount of jobs that one show created, and everyone coming together to create such a beautiful thing. I think it's just innovation now, and even when live does come back, I actually hope that live streaming stays a thing, and people are kind of innovating in that way as well, because it just opens up more doors for more work, more creativity, in ways that we probably don't even know yet. We have ideas, but I think there's so much more, especially with VR. Maybe VR is going to be something that's going to be more popular,
big time.
So I think it's exciting for sure.
Walter, did I just see that Drift are doing work with Dermot Kennedy?
Yeah,
just saw that as well.
How funny!
I didn't know this. Quantz was doing this. Yeah, it's amazing. We'd done the Dermot Kennedy live, the History Museum show, which was amazing. Yeah.
How amazing! And then the other moment of sort of looping paths together was maybe only a week or 10 days ago, where Nadia, I saw that your podcast was, I was like, oh, who's Nadia speaking to this week? Oh my days, it's Quantz Ramdin. I can't believe it. Obviously I knew that you guys were at college together, not in the same year, but together. But it was, again, it was another sort of moment of, those paths are crossing, and how funny just to have had that moment then. It's very interesting, Quantz, and I think people should really sort of take heed about what you're saying about excuse me, not putting that, which we do as creatives, like it's dried up. There's that panic, isn't there? That horrible kind of like your blood rushing and your head stopping because that overwhelming panic about my income's gone. Everything that I was working for, training for, reading for, all of those things has gone. And then actually it was good to hear you say that you purposefully took a step back.
For sure.
And then were able to come back with creative ideas. Do you think that break did you good?
Yeah, it really did. And I took a break from social media as well, the whole lot, because I think what the most important thing really is your internal, because I think a lot of we all do it, but I think we try to focus on the external to kind of change how we feel inside, but it's actually it's backwards. It's the opposite way around. And then once we fix this, then everything around us changes. So I think for me that that month period was perfect, because then I came in with new fresh ideas, ready to work again whenever that came back. And for me, luckily, I'm really grateful for this. After the first lockdown, the artists I was working for, they wanted to do live streams, they wanted to do video shoots, and it was just really good timing.
No, it's great. And I've been reading on a personal level about exactly what you were just saying about having this kind of external world and the internal world, and remembering that the external world is something that we don't control. We can influence, but we don't control that.
Exactly.
Whereas the the internal world is really important, and that kind of whole holistic well-being, and having the break from social media and all those other things that are wonderful tools, but can create a level of toxicity if they're not used in a productive way. I think it's really refreshing to hear that. So Nadia, let's come to you, because you're very much, I would describe you, and forgive me for using these terms, but very much as a DIY act. You're there and you're on the road, and I've seen some wonderful stories about your mum driving you guys around, and this is and look what you've done, and it's amazing. What's happened to you really during the pandemic? What changes have you noticed during this period with the industry, and how have you reacted professionally?
The me is live again, because so the boys and I were playing every other week, if not we just come from a huge tour, and for me it was kind of like a hit, because I was starting to get momentum. I did this huge thing, can't leave your house, and then I remember I was going up to Manchester Arena writing emails like to all these agents, like, we're playing Manchester Arena tonight, do you want to come down? And only one replied and said, it's a very tough time for the industry, I'm glad your show is going ahead, good luck. And obviously I was so absorbed in all of this that I didn't see the magnitude of what was going on, especially with started seeing it in Europe. It didn't hit the UK until a bit later. But I just jumped head in first. So I just channeled all my energy that I had from all these shows and what was going on with me into my career. So
good.
I go crazy, which is not very good. But so I just channeled it, started writing loads, took time to sit down and write. I started doing live streams every Thursday for everyone that was kind of like stuck at home on their own and they just couldn't do anything, and just made me connect more with my audience, and also to kind of like just, it was really nice to see people just writing to you and saying, this is literally the only thing worth doing for in the week. Like, I just look forward to sometimes I felt like I don't want to do this right now. Like, I have to sit on my phone and like play songs to myself, because you want to see yourself on the camera, and I'm tired and I'm not in the mood, and then you do it and you feel better. We went in the studio, so I kind of managed to create more work and focus on the creative side. And I'm really lucky that I got to play some shows, so socially distant shows, acoustic.
Brilliant.
I had a really big low in September time after summer, where it just kind of hit you and it's really frustrating, and you kind of have a few weeks where you're like not concentrated, you really struggle to do things, and then started the podcast, which Quantz is in, because I thought, what can I do to kind of help the industry and raise awareness, because I can't play shows, and I know a lot of people that follow me that don't realize how bad the industry is, in what situation the industry is in right now. So I interviewed the head of the Music Venue Trust. I interviewed Ramdin. I'm just going to call you Ramdin. Quantz. I did the production manager for Stereophonics. Promoter from so Simon from Benum, they're promoters, and did a really good bunch, and did that. Started writing more and playing a few shows. And
the podcast thing is really interesting, because that for me feels like that's something that's new, that's come out of this for you. That I is that sort of how you're perceiving it as well? That that's come out of this period of time.
Absolutely, because I'm interviews and stuff, but I'm not very good at least I think so, talking, kind of like presenting and doing that kind of thing, because my brain goes faster than my mouth, so I just start stumbling upon my words, and you probably noticed by now. But
no, I would challenge you on that, actually. I think that you're very engaging, but carry on, Nadia, carry on.
But yeah, I just thought, what can I do with this spare time I've got? Something to kind of help people realize what's going on and kind of give a voice to people that don't have it, raise awareness, and also for me personally do something new and put myself out of my comfort zone, because it's not something that's natural to me. So I just thought, what can I do to kind of embrace the moment and do something new, and also put it out there, so people are at home, they're like, they can't go out, they can't see their families, can't see their friends, they're consuming content, so give them something that, I'm not aiming to be a podcaster or like have like 1 million streams on my podcast, but it's out there, and if anyone wants to find it and they want to listen to it and want to learn something about what goes on behind an arena show, they can find out. And then you've got all the links to the Music Venue Trust and Save Our Venues and Red Alerts and everything in the description. If anyone wants to learn or know what's going on, they can just kind of like tap on that.
Fantastic. And Kurt, how about you? What changes have you noticed in the industry since?
During the first lockdown, the studios had closed. Fortunately, this time round, the second and third, they've managed to stay open, but they've had to put a lot of restrictions in place to keep it to only the relevant people that need to be in the room at the time. But during the first lockdown, I think there was a good couple of months where I just all of a sudden didn't have work. And I was fortunate that a friend of mine needed some work mastery. I'd never considered the idea of being a mastering engineer. He sent some work over, and I ended up doing a few projects off the back of that, which is quite nice, things that I could do from my home setup. And while we didn't have work, I found a lot more time to be creative and work on my own production and composition stuff, which was really nice to get back into. And I've tried to keep that going, since work has started again.
Yeah, it's what's so keep using the word inspiring, but motivating, I think, for people is the transparency with all of you in your different sectors with what you're doing, that actually it's okay that things have changed. And instead of just waiting for them to return to a sense of well, not even normality, because what is normal? I thought I've sort of lost really with what normal is now, but without returning, and something I've sort of said to students very recently is, change doesn't have to be a bad thing. Change can be a really, if you drive it in the right way, it can be a really positive thing. And I'm going to ask a bit of a sobering question now, but it's okay, because I think it's important to have that level of honesty. Walt, I think it was you earlier that we were sort of saying that, if only the industry were, but it's not rainbows and ponies. And, we have all the I'm backstage at moments and the amazing moments, but, there will have unquestionably been low points in all of your careers so far, in terms of not working out how you thought it was going to, or struggles, or all sorts of things. How do you each overcome disappointment when it happens? Because I think that's something that's really, I'm still trying every day, but it's really important to speak to people who are watching this, who are about to go into the process that you guys are in, is, how do you overcome disappointment when it happens? Because it's going to happen, because it does, because it's life. and how do you overcome it? Quantz, let's start with you.
That's a very good question. How do you overcome disappointment? I would say, just thinking back to, you know, specific thing that's happened along my career where I may have felt disappointed, or I haven't done a good enough job. How did I get over it? I think, again, it's going back to what I said before. Again, it's easier said than done, but it's the whole thing of not beating yourself up and realizing that we're human. Humans make mistakes, right? But it's also realizing that humans make mistakes at every level, at any level. And I think once that kind of that's internalized, you do start to feel better about any mistakes that you do, or anything that goes wrong or doesn't go your way. Because you know, let's say there's one time where I made a pretty big mess up on stage in front of, like a festival show.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought I was going to lose the job. I thought I was going to lose the gig from that one thing. And after the show, I realized no one mentioned it. It's almost like no one noticed it, and I'm only thinking about this, and that affected my whole day. I think probably my whole week or whatever, thinking that, you know, I'm going to lose the job. And then realizing that people make mistakes all the time, no matter on any level, no matter what job it is. And all you have to do is just, you know, work so that doesn't happen again. Really, it will happen again. You make mistakes all the time, different mistakes, but it's just about, you know, learning from that situation, and kind of just moving forward with it, and realizing that everyone makes mistakes. It's just a human thing, you know.
Totally. And I love your honesty about everybody does it at every level. You know, we think, because I remember feeling the same, Quantz, you know, the better, whatever better is, the better I got, you know, the easier it was all going to be. Oh my days. It's like the total opposite.
Literally.
But, you know, mistakes at every level. And I think it's really important to keep remembering that, you know, we're never the finished article, thank goodness, actually. Right. And that we're going to make mistakes because we're human, and it's the way that we bounce back from that, and the way that we sort of hold ourselves when we're dealing with that, that's the most important thing. Kurt, how about you? How have you overcome disappointment?
Very, very similarly. I think I've going on the idea of mistakes. There's been the odd time where I'll get an email the next morning and I've not, you know, I've finished at 3:30 in the morning and I've not left the studio the way it should be, or I've missed something and left something set up. And then I end up dwelling on it, thinking that I've done the worst thing ever happened in reality, but it just played on my mind. And I think it's a case of standing back, seeing, you know, what the situation is. It's not, you know, it's not the be all and end all. You've done one thing, it was 3:30 in the morning, you're tired. It happens, it's a mistake. But then the next time round, I know what I'm, you know, there's certain things in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, I need to do that before I leave, those sort of things. But it's 100% just processing it and trying not to dwell on it. And, you know, being human, you do.
Yeah. But I think, you know, it's refreshing for people who are watching to hear, you know, there is going to be disappointment. There is. And it's okay. You know, Nadia, how, you know, there you were a week before this pandemic started, playing at the place that had inspired you to get going. It's almost like, oh, I've done it, this has happened, and boom, you know, what happened to the world. How did you overcome stuff like that? Because it sounded like you were really channeling your energy positively through helping others and, you know, galvanizing new opportunities. But how do you feel you've overcome that?
I think, me personally, I need to be very active in doing a lot of stuff. The moment that I stop, that's when I just like go down the drain and just go into a dark place. And don't get me wrong, I did have my moments. Like I'm an emotional person, so I'd like just snap, and then
you're a creative. We're all, you know, we're allowed to be that. It's okay.
So it's not like it was just great, but I did kind of like go down that route. I tried to like focus so I wouldn't really have to focus on what was going on, rather than focus on what can I do to not focus on everything else. And for me personally, I tend to do that in general. So like I just keep on going. for certain things it could be great, for others not so good.
Yeah.
But for me, I think, if to answer your question, I think a way to kind of I just lost my train of thought.
Creatives do that as well. It's okay. You're allowed to do that. It's okay. about picking yourself up and about keeping that focus and about you know, I think channeling energy is what you're saying. Just
remember why you do it.
Yeah.
You do it because you love it, and if something doesn't happen or doesn't go one way, it just wasn't meant for you. Something else will come, and sometimes it might be better than what you thought.
Yeah.
I've had things that I was like really excited about that didn't go through. For example, that management thing I was talking about before. I was like really excited. I was like, okay, finally, this is it.
This is amazing. Yeah.
And it was a big disappointment.
Yeah.
I felt really bad after that because I literally felt disappointed.
Yeah.
But a year down the line, less than a year down the line, if I know for certain if I'd taken that contract, I wouldn't have done the tour I've done. And for me, that tour is way more valuable and more important than that bad experience I had a few months before. So it's all about kind of like resetting and looking at the bigger picture and just focus on why you do it and what you can do, and don't bring yourself down about something that's not in your hands.
Yeah, that's great. And Walt, how about you? Because you spoke earlier about periods of time where things haven't worked out, they haven't gone, you know, it's almost like they were happening and then suddenly they were not happening. And, you know, what would your advice be in terms of dealing with disappointment?
Oh, yeah. It is just about, you know, it is again about just having that drive and dealing with things. But, you know, one thing, don't overstretch yourself, like know your limits. And, you know, I was awful for that, particularly when I left UWL. I was like, right, I want to do this and doing this and doing this. Essentially, you become a yes man and you're like, can you do this? Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah. It kind of it's kind of going against the grain of what Quantz said earlier, but you know, it was like, oh yeah, yes, and you find a way to do it. Sometimes you can't, and sometimes, you know, you need to know, you know, when you should be like, okay, because you'll burn yourself out, you won't know what to do, and then that'll affect badly on you and your work, and then you'll beat yourself up even more, and then that leads to further things on you, like to stop, you know, take some time to reflect and go, okay, what happened here, why was it that, and how do you learn and go better from it, you know?
Yeah.
From my disappointments, and like sometimes you can't, sometimes it's not on you, sometimes these are just things that happen. You need to learn that these things happen and you just need to get back on the bike and carry on.
100%. And I love what you've just said about, because I think we all do this. I don't know if, I'm sure you guys can relate. Hopefully you can, you know, would you like to do this? Yes, please. Would you like to do this? Yes, please. I'll do it. Because we're told, you know, grab every opportunity, which is right, and all of those things. But, you know, very much what Quantz was saying earlier about self-preservation and, you know, almost like prioritization and, you know, not beating yourself up that you can't do everything that you said you were going to. And then, you know, saying yes to people can result in being a yes. What, you know, you then get known as the yes person, which is sometimes good and is sometimes not. And I think creatives, particularly when you have a portfolio career, it's almost like, well, if I say no to it, it might not happen again. So I'm just going to say no to this and I'm yes to this and yes to this. And I think they're really valuable points, all of you. You know, self-preservation, sort of hunkering down, keeping the focus, dealing with the noise that's going on and keeping that sort of tunnel about where you're going and having that acute focus, I think is hugely important. And I've got a couple of questions that have come in from people. So I might just throw them at, I'm just very conscious of time, at a few people. So we've got a question from Daisy, who's currently studying level 6. And she says, I started the course at the start of the pandemic and found it almost impossible to meet other new students to possibly collaborate with as we'd moved to online learning. So I think that I missed out on a vital part of the university experience. Do you have any recommendations for other students now who might be in a similar situation? And then she's put, he might not remember me, but Quantz always rehearsed at the studio I was working at King's Cross. So Quantz, I'm going to throw that one over.
Daisy.
What experience, because I think it's definitely conversations I've had with students who feel that the pandemic has taken away some of the collaborative opportunity in terms of real time. Quantz, what recommendation would you have for students who might find themselves in that position now?
Well, kind of going back to what I said, I think this this time we're in has really kind of shown us the importance of social media and how important that's going to be moving forward. There's been a few conversations that I've been in, and even videos I've seen on YouTube where people are really talking about the positive effects of just this whole content culture for your career. Yeah. It's better, specifically in music, but just in general. But within music, it's like the more people see you and see what you're doing, and the more value you offer, the more people are going to invest in you as a person. They're going to know who you are. I think, ever so much now is when, really having that presence and really having that identity is so important. And I think once you kind of have that and establish that, then it's so much easier to to meet people and like Nadia said earlier, she just sent a message on Twitter. Like you can be in contact with so many people and create opportunities that you wouldn't even couldn't even dream of.
Yeah.
And you just never know. And I think Nadia has her identity out there, so it's a lot easier for her to go and send a message to someone and say, this is what I'm about, I like your stuff.
Yeah.
You're up for a collaboration, or let's do this, I've got this idea. And obviously it's much easier to do this with people but it's so reachable to do it with people you don't know as well. And I think it's not always an easy thing, because it's like meeting someone in person you don't know. Yes. It's not always an easy thing. It's not easy for everyone.
Yeah.
Some people are more confident and more social in those areas than others. But I think, I think online generally, I think it's a bit easier because you can just send a message.
Yeah, totally. And I think Daisy's actually level 7. But what Daisy was saying, and I think Quantz, you were sort of alluding to it as well, and I've definitely done this in the past myself, so I'm going to hold my hands up confessional here, is you sort of think, well, why would people be interested in me? Why would they be interested in working with me or hearing from me or collaborating with me? And, what have I got to offer? Because I'm at this stage of my career, and, the people I'm looking at are at this stage. And I think people should hold on to Nadia's story that we've heard today about embracing the brave and going, okay, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? They don't reply. Sure. And then, by embracing the brave and jumping in and sending something that's respectful and polite and professional, look what happened, Nadia. There you were. And that was all from taking that gamble of, okay, well, this person's here and I don't feel that I am here, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I think that's a really important message to take away from today about embracing the brave and using the technology that we've got to collaborate in different ways.
And on a deeper level, on a deeper level as well, I do think that it's about realizing your own value, because the reality is, no matter, again, irrespective of level in your career, no one can bring to the table what you can bring to the table.
Yeah.
No one is influenced by, has the influence of the music, that the exact same music you listen to. No one has the exact same talent that you have. And that goes for every individual. So I think it's kind of empowering to realize that. And then that's the start of kind of building that confidence to be able to just, put things out there or kind of create your identity and,
Yeah, confidence is a massive thing, isn't it? And, it's about that, exactly as you were saying, Quantz, about like your own value. What do you feel your own, you've got to believe in what you've got to offer, not, sure. And I'm sure actually it happens at every level, however successful we are, people have always got their doubts because we're humans. So we know we might be really good at one thing, but we know that perhaps we're not so strong at that, or we want to improve on that. And I think it's about understanding our self-worth and really, I think if we were all to be really transparent with each other, we'd be shocked at the level of continuity that links us together.
100%.
That actually, the days where I have, well, why on earth would that person want to do that? That actually we're all feeling like that because we think we're the only one. We think we're the only one who feels inadequate or afraid, or all of those words that can have quite negative connotations. And I personally think, well, Nadia, there we are. You're going to be my story now in lectures, that, if we were all to really lay it out there and we were to be really transparent about how we're feeling, we would realize there's such a level of continuity that links us together. And Nadia, there you are, embracing the brave. you know, contacting somebody who you felt wasn't, you know, in your league at that point, and look what's happened. I mean, amazing. So a very, very quick question, and again, very conscious of the time. I've got a question from a student who says he's in his late 50s, graduated this year as part of the BA Music Tech specialist background, versatile in many areas, got his degree, which is amazing. And he said, as a family man, where would you guys start if you were older than you were now? Got time for what? Kurt, how about you? Where would you start? Do you think it's the same?
Do you know, I think it's the same, yeah, because I don't think age is a thing in production at all.
Yeah.
But I think it's a case of meeting people and networking, and like Quantz was saying, with how things are at the minute, I think social media is the best bet with that. I think if you can find a way to network with how things are, then age shouldn't be a problem getting into studios. Whether it's engineering, mixing, mastering, you know, doing things from home, there's avenues, 100%.
Brilliant. That's great. I'd love to keep expanding upon this, but I've got one more question. And then, you know, I haven't got Esther in my ear, but I can picture her going, wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up. So hindsight is a wonderful thing. So knowing what you all know now and going through what you've been through, what advice would you give to your final year student self? And I'm gonna ask for concise answers. So what advice, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your final year student self? Walt, I'm gonna start with you.
I'd relay back to what I said previously about not overstretching yourself, but, you know, putting yourself in the right positions and speaking to enough people, and yeah, getting yourself out there and going from that angle. Yeah, my third year self, I don't know, it was a different time for UWL. Yeah. I was in the Castle pub drinking Guinnesses most of the Friday. So, yeah, which, you know, unfortunately for all you watching, you can't do. But that was a real learning and proper experience, because that's when you make your connections, and that's the people that I still talk to every day, pretty much. Yeah. But what I'd say is, you know, just, yeah, don't overstretch yourself. Keep focused. Don't beat yourself up, and just carry on. You know, this will pass, and you will do great things. And, you know, and you, as people have said, you know, only you can do what you can do. You know, sell yourself as that and what you're best at, and good things will come.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Quantz, if you could give your Quantz Ramdin third year student some advice looking back, what would it be? What would you tell yourself?
Right, I'm going to try kill two birds with one stone and link this to a question in the Q&A about how did you ensure success within the first month or two after graduation, right? Yeah. I think it's difficult, because I think there is a pressure when you leave university to kind of, you know, get out there, you know, be successful straight away, and I think it's the wrong mindset. I think with anything, it's all about baby steps, right? And it's all about, you know, these incremental wins almost. And I think especially after leaving uni, and the kind of the financial aspect of it, which is daunting as well. Yep. I think, you know, you just got to do what you got to do. If that means, you know, moving home and kind of developing whatever it is that you're doing from home, that's fine. If that's getting a part-time job and then kind of hustling almost after your part-time job and putting yourself, speaking to the right people to kind of, you know, get yourself in the door, then it's doing that. So I think, you know, along with that, it's not beating yourself up. It's saying, listen, I'm just going to do the best I can do. And whatever I need to do, as long as I'm kind of incrementally making my way every day to that next step of where I want to be, then that's how you got to kind of do it.
Yeah, fantastic. Kurt, how about you? What would you tell your final year self?
I would say I mean, a little bit more difficult at the moment, but if you can collaborate and work with the people around you, and from a recording point of view, there's always artists and musicians that want to put down demos or record an EP, and if you can if you can put yourself forward and do that and create a good show reel while you've got the facilities around you and the opportunity to do that, then that would 100% help going forward when you're trying to find work after uni. I'd also say from a recording point of view, if you can do the experimenting, find the best processes for you whilst you've got the option to play, if you like, it definitely helps to have an idea of how things are going to work when you're going into the studio. If you've got the label of paying for things, for example, then you're on their time and you've kind of got to know how to do things quickly as things are being thrown at you.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can create a good show reel with the people around you and experiment and find those processes, then great.
Yeah, fantastic. And last but certainly no means least, Nadia, Sheikh, what would you tell your third year self?
I'd say don't waste too much energy on the small losses or problems, or they will get solved. And if they haven't been solved, then just don't waste energy on it, because it's just not going to take you anywhere.
Yeah.
And one that I would say to anyone, not just final year, but like anyone in uni, don't wait till you're out of uni to start.
Yeah.
Just every opportunity, meet people. I know it's a bit harder now, but even on social media, once live shows are back, go to every live show that you can see, meet the promoters. Don't wait for uni don't wait till the end of uni to start your career. Your career starts now. I moved to London. First year I was playing 2 gigs a week. I got lost so many times in London. Meet the promoters that when I had a band, I could rather than play the bad places. So
totally.
Start now. Take your time, but do it properly and don't stress out, but don't wait.
Yeah. And there can always be, I don't know if you guys agree, I always think there's a tendency as creatives that we wait till something is finished. It ain't ever going to be finished, because you're never going to be finished. It's going to be good enough. And I don't mean good enough like, oh, that's fine. But, sometimes we hold on to a song, or we hold on to some writing, or we hold on to, a business idea or some recording work or whatever it is, because we think, oh, I'm going to try it again. I'm sure there's a little bit more I can do. Sometimes you just got to go, it's good and it's good enough. Let's let it go. And creating those opportunities and not waiting for them. And as Nadia says, and you all nodding in agreement, furiously, don't wait for your degree to finish. Your degree is a springboard, but work and keep working and get out there. And that can be get out there on social media. It can be get out there online, with everything that we're going through at the moment without actually getting out there. Kurt Martinez, Quantz, Ramdin, Walter, Aldaz, Nadia, Sheikh, it's been a true delight. It's been a real joy to see you again. You're such ambassadors for the college and for the university, but also for yourselves as human beings, good people who work really hard and have, lots of great things to offer everybody. And I wish you unending success as you move forward out of this pandemic and onto the next stages of your glorious careers. I'd love to do this again. It's been fantastic to talk with you. Thank you so much for giving up your time today. I'm sure that everybody will agree how valuable it's been. And thank you so much for being here.